Welcome to the Manual Channel. My name is Dan Gaul, and do I have some amazing guests I'm super excited about today? We have Shareef Malnik and Jay Goodman, co-CEOs of Sonrisa Rum. So I want to kick it off with just getting a little bit of a backstory about both of you. If you could give us kind of some highlights of how you all met, what made you want to get into the rum business, and your passion around it.
We met because we're actually family. So this is a family business, which is serving us very well because we run it with family values. Best practices of Fortune 500 companies, but family values. I had been approached because I have 30 years in hospitality and many years in finance. And I've been approached by many startups to join their boards. And they just didn't seem for startup spirits companies. And they just didn't seem like they had enough of those boxes checked. Right. So I just said, if I burn my opportunity and leverage relationships and it doesn't work, that's it. I'm never going to get another shot. No one will trust me. So fast forward to my cousin, who is really considered one of the world's greatest marketers and greatest marketing minds. He said to me, hey, Shareef, I've been incubating this idea of a rum for 3 years. But, Jay's a creative guy and I'm a business guy. And he's like, but I haven't been able to, I need a business partner. I said, hold. Before we start that, why do you want to do rum, Jay? And he said, there's white space there. I see that. So I don't know marketing. Jay's the marketing expert. So I went to my dear friend, one of my best friends in the world. We went to high school together and law school together, Wayne Chaplin, the CEO of Southern Glazer Wine and Spirits. And I said, Wayne, my cousin's pretty famous for disrupting markets, right? He's the best. He says rum. He says, let's look at our proprietary data. We spent 3 days with the analytics department. He said, your cousin's right. I went, Jay, I'm all in. And Jay, you take it from there.
That's kind of the story, except that I'm not sure it was 3 years. It might have been 10.
Okay.
Thinking about it. And then eventually wrote a deck that without my cousin Shareef would still be sitting on my computer. I think a bit of the backstory in terms of seeing white space is in my day job in entertainment, where I help brands make entertainment. And before that, in advertising, my clients have been Diageo and Pernod Ricard and AB InBev and Treasury Wine Estates, where we marketed Snoop's wine. And I've often been tapped to help disrupt established markets or help an established brand in an established market break out. And so through that, like any consumer, I had a front row seat on the marketing side to first the premiumization of vodka. It's a bad example now for some obvious reasons, but at the time, what Puffy and Ciroc did was quite breakthrough from the marketing side. I recognize that's a challenging example to use now, but the marketing of it stands. So we saw it happen in vodka, then we saw it happen in brown spirits. We're seeing it happen in the orders of magnitude greater way in tequila, often with celebrities attached. My time, I spent a dozen years as the chief creative officer of Creative Artists Agency, the world's leading talent agency. So I had a second front row seat to the talent side of that happening. And I have a love of rum. And so I hadn't seen it happen in terms of premiumization in the thing that I choose to drink. And so that landed with, I'm just going to write the deck. And then thank goodness I have a cousin who's so capable in all the ways he is. And here we are.
Sounds like an amazing story. I mean, family ties through rum. I feel like this is a little bit unique, right? Because the famous family-run rums in the world kind of came out of Cuba, etc. You don't really hear a story like this from a family-run one. It's usually like they were born into it somehow, and they were actually making it themselves, and all interesting stories in itself. But this is unique, I feel like, because you both are coming from unique perspectives. I feel like tequila right now is the spirit that everybody's trying to get into. I personally love rum a lot too, but I find it really hard to find high quality rum. A lot of it is super heavy in sugar. Differentiates your rum, Sonrisa Rum, from the rest of the market in terms of flavor, nose, all these, how you're making it. Why should somebody be excited about it?
I'm going to let Shareef talk about the actual how it's made. He spent some time speaking to our master distiller earlier today just to make sure we had it exactly right. And we can talk about brand profile separately later, but in terms of the drinkability of it, again, very selfishly motivated, like you, it sounds, I wanted to be able to order a sipping rum at the bars that I tend to go to, whether that's Miami, New York, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, or their equivalents around the world. And if you're lucky, there's some of the very limited edition of the more distributed brands in the world. You might get a Zacapa XO somewhere. That can be a $50 glass of rum. I don't care how much money you have, $50 is a lot of money to pay for a glass of anything, whether you
Yeah.
can afford it or not. And the people who can afford it probably didn't get that money by spending it $50 at a time on rum. So what we wanted to do was blend something that could be the world's finest sipping rum, but at a price that's accessible, whether you're buying it at retail or buying it at a bar. Secondly, we believe rum, as we suspect you do, really mixes well in classic cocktails when you get the right rum. I love a rum Manhattan. I know exactly which one or two bars in the cities I like to go to will actually have a decent rum that mixes well, whether it's a rum Manhattan or a rum old fashioned. And then at the mass end, and we are not making a mass play, but at the mass end with our Platino, with our silver, if you taste some of the leading silvers on their own, if you sip them, it's not a great idea. They mix well with really fruity things. They blend well, but they tend not to be aged and they tend not to taste great. We didn't create something to be sipped, but we wanted to distill and blend something that could be, that had its own taste profile so that mixologists could take a silver rum and do something interesting with it, not have to blend it with something sickly sweet, actually use light, fresh juices, maybe the way they're using tequila today. So that's kind of the origin story of the Reserva, the sipping rum, the Auto Especial, the blending rum, the mixologist rum, although my wife will tell you she prefers to sip that. And so would my son if he were of age and could do that, but he's not, so I didn't just say that on a podcast. And then the silver, the Platino I just described.
Hey, it all depends on what country you're in, right?
There we go. Let's just say we were in France when it happened. How I got the bottle there will make up for another day.
That's right.
It's interesting, just following up on what Jay said. I remember when Patron came out with the Patron Silver, and prior to that, there wasn't any quality premiumized tequila, and yet it was still a silver white tequila. Back in the day, in my hospitality days, there were a lot of Patron Silver shots going on there, right? And so I think there's a parallel here because it was a premium mixing mixing tequila, and now we have the premium mixing rum that's a silver white. And I think there's a story there, and we like to think that we want to do for rum what Patron did for tequila, because there's been no breakout brand. So, and that's how Jay identified that.
I really think it's time for that because, for me, I enjoy sipping rum as well. And I want to enjoy it with like a cigar or when it's warm out and I'm sitting somewhere like in my backyard. I really want to actually have a rum that's good on ice, right? Like that's the other thing that I feel like I miss. And when I currently do it with some of the rums I enjoy, they end up being somewhat sweet, and I can only have maybe like two, and then I'm sugared out a little bit. So it sounds like you guys are really aiming to change the philosophy, the idea on that, which I love. I'm super intrigued about the cocktails as well, because I feel like that's what rum is for. It's kind of like the background to a cocktail, especially a fruity cocktail where the sugar is kind of like enhancing that and making it easy to drink. I really want to be able to have some flavor of the alcohol with me. Again, I cannot wait. I haven't tried Sonrisa yet. I'm hoping to be able to do that next week. And
Great.
part of this, I was going to say this to later, and you don't have to give me an answer right now. But what I would love, I noticed your website has some cocktail recipes that you recommend. I want to get more personal with you two around what you enjoy from a unique perspective of Sonrisa in a cocktail that most people may not be familiar with. right? Like I enjoy a daiquiri, but I end up mixing it up. I'll do blood orange or key lime juice or something like that. So what, save that for later. I'll get the recipe afterwards. And then what I'll do is maybe like on a Friday, I'll throw that up on our Instagram as a reel and introduce people to it. Also mention some unique distilling and aging techniques. I think that's really critical to mention that and distinguish that, because also in the rum world, there's a big mystery around what really defines quality aged rum, because pretty much anybody can say something's aged and you don't know how much of that rum is actually aged. So what is your philosophy on that? What is your technique?
Thank you for that very important note that I want to reiterate before Shareef shares the details, which you're absolutely right that if there's a drop of aged rum in a quote unquote aged rum, then the distiller gets to say it's aged. And we want to be very, very clear that every single drop of Sonrisa in every bottle is fully aged. Full stop. So when you see it says Sonrisa and we say Reserva is aged 4+ years and Oro Especial is aged at least 1 year and then finished in a once used bourbon barrel, it's all aged in white oak bourbon barrels. And the same is true even of our Platino. In order to be called Puerto Rican rum, it has to be aged at least 1 year in Puerto Rico. So you have our word that it's all aged in the bottle. Take it from there, Sonrisa, Shareef, or I could call you Sonrisa. Sonrisa means smile, by the way. We can get into that later.
Right. So my cap, which you will be getting one, Dan, says Sonrisa por favor. So we're basically, that's the bar call, and it's also telling people to smile. So as I'm walking through the airport, people who speak Spanish look at me and go, just show me their white, hysterical. But there's also some good energy in this name, and and as Jay says, if somebody thinks it means sunrise, we're okay with that too. So let me just back up just a little bit. I'll talk about, there's a couple unique properties. I think one is in the fermentation that our distillery uses. It's a unique proprietary synthetic profile on the yeast. It's a very specific yeast that they're very proud of. Of course, I can't get too much secret information out of it, but that is used in our fermentation. And according to our master distiller, it's a big difference. And it's one of the big reasons that we have this flavor profile. In terms of the distillation itself, it's a combination of distillates from a multi-column system. But what makes it better and unique is it also has a one-column system that it's used simultaneously, and it's a heavy rum characteristic profile. And the fact that this rum has both, and the distillery is not doing that, for their own rum, that this rum has both, is one of the reasons it has such a depth of character. And as Jay mentioned, all of our rum is aged in white oak whiskey barrels. The Oro Especial, in order to differentiate it, because it's aged 1 year, just like the Platino, is finished a second time in a once used bourbon barrel. And the fact that it's only been used once, you probably know more about this than we do. It really pulls a lot of the oak, and that becomes a big difference. Like the Oro, you'd want to put in one of Jay's favorite drinks, rum old fashioned, because it's complex and it can handle all those flavors. But in a daiquiri or in a mojito, you want to put the Platino because it's perfect, it's smooth, it's clean, it's direct, and it has less complexity. And then our reserve, as Jay mentioned, is a minimum of 3 years, and what we have in the bottles now is probably closer to 4. All of it aged 4 years. It may be the best sipping rum in the world, And in terms of price, which Jay brought up, we went in and we reverse engineer the product at Southern. We went over there and said, "Hey, my dear friend, we're not talking about distribution. We're asking you for advice. This is what we're so proud of, and we're pricing the Platino at $29.99 and the Oro Especial at $39.99, and let's do the Reserve at $70.99 because it's such a great sipping rum, and like cognac drinkers are saying, oh my God, this is replacing my cognac, and bourbon drinkers are saying the same thing." He said, drop the price to $59.99. So first of all, there's no questions asked. He does know. He's the CEO of the largest distributor in the country. right? Because you'll pull tequila drinkers and bourbon drinkers that of fine tequilas and bourbons that are priced higher, and they'll try your rum and they'll like it because of the pricing. That's how we ended up having such a great liquid in the bottle. It's such a super premium liquid in the bottle at such a great price.
Yeah, that is an amazing price because it is at that point where when you find it, you feel like you found something special and you don't want anybody else to know about it, right? I don't want it to be like Pappy or something like that where it's like, oh my God, I can't get my hands on it anymore. And now if I do, it's, a couple $100 a bottle at the very least. So that's commendable of you all to do that and to be thinking about. Again, I think the fact that every drop is actually aged is a big deal to me. I'm curious, what would you call the flavor profile on the Reserva?
We have actual tasting notes that we can send you
Yeah,
over.
so I'll give you our tasting notes.
Okay.
So on the Reserva, all right. So I'm going to tell you what we write about it and how we write it. It's a
That's
dark aged,
perfect.
But then we want to know what you think when you actually taste it.
and
So
then I'm
these
going to
are
tell you
how
what
it
it does
works.
to my body. Okay, how it makes my tongue tingle and my fingertips numb.
I already know it makes you smile.
It makes me smile, man. So it's a dark rum aged a minimum of 3 years. It has a sophisticated profile meant to sit alongside the finest tequilas and whiskeys. Its barrel influenced aromas, including cacao, spicy, woodsy scents of clove, green leaf tobacco, and honey, are a prelude to the substance and complexity of dark caramel, honeysuckle, and cumin. Sonrisa Reserve is a superb premium cocktail component, comfortable atop the menu of the finest bars and restaurants, and is a superior sipping rum neat or on the rock, perhaps accompanied by a cigar. I was thinking about you when you just said that, or a sweet dessert.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice, huh?
Oh yeah. And you know what? One, it sounds amazing. The flavor profile sound like it would complement a great cigar as well. So I think that's honestly why rum goes so well with it. If you've never done rum with a cigar, I feel like that's the only way to have a cigar.
When I'm in Vegas and we're not in a particular hotel that we will get into eventually, and so I have an opportunity to try great rums, including some of the rums that you just mentioned, Jay. And I'm like, that was good. That was $50, and I like our rum better. I
Yeah.
really, it's actually, as a sipping rum, it's smoother and it's less ostentatious, actually. It's an odd word to use for taste, but our rum actually feels it's classy, humble, and perfect. It really, I feel that way about the Reserve. It's incredible.
You know, what's kind of funny is that expensive rum to me is you're really paying for packaging more than anything else. You're getting a kind of cool looking bottle and a cool box and all that. I can't count the number of times I've been disappointed when opening up a like 120, $150 bottle of rum, which is extremely rare, by the way, because rum pricing in itself is, not very high in general because like you all said, like it's up and coming. It's not currently like the bourbon of the world and how tequila is right now. So I think it's an awesome opportunity, but I agree, and I cannot. Again, I can't wait to try this out. You have me excited. I do want to move to you guys have a major mission with the brand, which is giving back the community impact. I mentioned earlier about how that's to me is the kind of home run part of great business is be able to provide the human aspect to the community, to the world, to your customers. So, can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing there?
Yeah, I'll give you we'll do this as a 1-2 again, where I'll give you the genesis of it, and then Shareef, who really architected the foundation and the way it works, can follow it up. But the genesis in terms of even why Puerto Rican rum really starts with why Puerto Rico. So Shareef grew up in Miami, so it's the back door, right? I mean, there's so many great Puerto Ricans, great Puerto Rican community in Miami. So he's always had an affinity for it. I, as a young kid, lived in Elmhurst, Queens, New York. My mom worked for American Airlines, and one of her jobs was to train the new colleagues as American Airlines was expanding through the Caribbean. And the home office was in San Juan. So I didn't go to school a lot as a third and fourth grader, nor did I drink a lot of rum, but I did spend a lot of time in San Juan and also really got the beautiful feeling of beautiful Puerto Rican people, and that stuck with me throughout my life. As an adult then, and Shareef and I have been lucky, we've done well in our primary careers, And it just kind of broke my heart as an adult taxpayer in America, seeing part of America get destroyed by Hurricane Maria and then not get all the money it needed, or have the FEMA money not make it where it needed to go. And then the same thing happened on the heels or during the pandemic. And then, unfortunately, there's a bit of corruption in some of the local government as well. So even when the federal government tries to do the right thing, the money may fix some of the infrastructure. It's got to get the power grid up and running. You got to get the water running. But the money never makes it to the people who are most closely associated with the national product of Puerto Rico, which is rum. The restaurant owner, the bar owner, the ice delivery person, the farmer. And so we wanted to architect something where $1 from every bottle of Sonrisa goes directly to Puerto Rican small business. Now, as we opened before, I had those pages in the deck, but I didn't actually know how one makes that happen, which is where Shareef comes in.
We created a foundation. We created it's a 501c3. We created it in Puerto Rico so that a dollar, and it's very important to note, it's not a dollar from the profit of every bottle. It's a dollar from the sale of every bottle. So the money is guaranteed on sales. That's kind of a tricky thing. You're like, hey, I promise to give a percentage of our profits, and you don't have any, so nobody's getting anything, that's a false promise, right? So a dollar from the sale goes into this foundation. And then we have a board on the foundation. And since we just started, generally we'll distribute once a quarter. We're going to wait probably the first year because we don't have enough sales. We want to make an impact. And on our board, or besides Jay and I, are some Puerto Ricans who live on the island, who are intimately familiar with the needs of their fellow Puerto Ricans are. And so we take their guidance, we take the guidance of our distillery, who is enamored with this idea of us giving millions of dollars to Puerto Rico. But like Jay said, those are our brothers, American brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico. We got to stand with them, right? They're our fellow Americans. We feel it's incumbent upon us to help them. And quite frankly, that demographic, that little slice of Puerto Rican population that Jay pinpointed, call them the forgotten population, right? They don't get the FEMA money. Big companies that want to expand and repair, that make money, get those kind of grants and donations. So Jay really identified that, and that really resonated with me, and it seems to resonate with everybody, including all of our partners and our Puerto Rican partners as well.
You'll see this when you get the bottle, Dan. So there's a medallion, a different colored medallion on each of the bottles, the Platino, the Oro Especial, and the Reserva. And on that says FPR, FPR. That stands for From Puerto Rico for Puerto Rico, which is, one of the brand lines about the brand overall. But obviously the foundation then is also called the FPR Foundation, the From Puerto Rico for Puerto Rico Foundation.
I was curious what that stood for when I've got the notes when prepping for this interview. I was like, how do I say this? Is it like FPR or I wasn't sure. So thanks for explaining that. I think it's so critical that you guys have shoes on the ground, feet on the ground, because from my opinion, and I'm not involved in a nonprofit like that, but to me, it makes sense for that to succeed. You need people local that you trust and are giving honest feedback and being part of that community. So congrats. That's a huge win for you and the company. And I'm really excited to hear more down the road in the future about the impact you all have there. It's super meaningful for those folks. I do want to ask, you mentioned, I found this an interesting note because you actually brought it up as well at the beginning of what Diddy and Ciroc have done. And I feel like a lot of, I would say, new brands that are trying to break into, especially, again, I'm going to say tequila. I hate to keep bringing it up, but tequilas especially, they try to connect with influencers, celebrities, some type of backing with them. I've noticed that you all also have some notable backers, but they're also co-owners. But your mission and vision sounds like it's different. Like they are not the focus. They're more of a supporting role. And again, the focus is more about Puerto Ricans, right? So can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, and you got it exactly right. So let's start there. And by the way, it's even happening in rum a little bit. So Bruno Mars and Selva Ray, Lil Wayne's got Boom Boo, Sierra and her husband Russell Wilson have 10-1, which is great rum, by the way. I wish I could say the same of the other two, just not my taste profile. I'm not looking for chocolate rum, but they are, 10-1 is not putting Sierra and Russell out in front, so kind of a similar model, whereas the other two brands are. But you got it absolutely right. The brand is Sonrisa. The reason for the brand is great rum, as we've talked about, and all the ways we talked about it. And FPR hopefully will eventually speak for itself. But while Shareef and I are Americans, and we very much love our Puerto Rican brothers and sisters who are also Americans, we're not Puerto Rican Americans. And it was very important to us that we have Puerto Ricans in our ownership group alongside us, and who would have impact, cultural impact, even if they're not the face of their brand, of our brand rather, and who would also really be able to drive notoriety on the island when we're giving back to the island. So one of their biggest roles. So those who we can talk about so far who are in, Fat Joe. Fat Joe was so enthusiastic in our first meeting that we actually we stepped out of the virtual room and stepped back in with a better arrangement. He's just fantastic, and also, like you, reacted really well to the FPR portion of it. Yandel, who's the godfather of reggaeton, so we know that all reggaeton's so huge today, but anybody who got into reggaeton as an artist probably did it because of Yandel. So Yandel and Shareef's son Yassine, who is our director of strategic partnerships, was actually with Yandel doing some events this past week. And then Martin Maldonado, who at the time was the catcher for the Houston Astros, won the World Series without cheating, joined them after they got busted the first time. So a bit of a Puerto Rican hero in that way, right? So we kind of love him for that. I'm a huge baseball fan. We love him for that. He now plays for the Chicago White Sox. And we've got room to add some more in. And the real litmus test for us, if you will, is, do they buy into the vision? Do they love the idea of Sonrisa, and that Sonrisa is evocative of the smile of the Puerto Rican people, and it's the smile that our rum puts on your face after you taste it, and by the way, we're giving $1 back. If they react well to that versus having a conversation about, oh, so you're doing a celebrity rum, we are absolutely not doing a celebrity rum. We want really impactful Puerto Rican owners alongside us, though.
Yeah, it sounds like it's exactly for the culture and the people and not for the celebrity, right? So totally get that. That's again super notable and honorable, I think, doing an honor to the people of Puerto Rico.
And as a matter of fact, on Sunday, we're launching to the Puerto Rican community on Sunday, the 9th of June, which is the Puerto Rican Day Parade in New York City. We will do the sort of special after party at Con Sofrito in the Bronx, basically the headquarters of Puerto Rican street cred. Okay, Fat Joe is going to MC for 4 hours, and we are going to have an indoor and outdoor street party and just rock it with music, with all of Sonrisa drinks and lots of great Puerto Rican food. And this is the roots of really this whole concept, right? And it's our core. And so, yes, we want to be in the Amman Hotel, but we want to be in Con Sofrito in the Bronx too, because that legitimizes who we are. That's who we really are. And then makes us a little bit sexier in the Amman Hotel, right? We're just not a foo-foo brand. Like, this is a brand with guts, right? And with roots. So I think that this exemplifies really who we are, what we're going to be doing on Sunday.
Yeah, I normally say I'm on the best coast, but on this weekend, I feel like I'm on the wrong coast. I wish I could be there at that party. It sounds like it'd be amazing. And again, depth to the business. So always love hearing about that. What it's, speaking of this and the depth and the culture, what has been some of the biggest challenges of launching a brand like this, especially if you all aren't necessarily coming from the spirits world, right? Like, and how did you overcome them?
To be clear, I've marketed a whole lot of spirits and created a whiskey about a decade ago with Diageo. So we have just enough experience to be dangerous. We have just enough to think we might actually pull this off. But look, the challenge, we have the same challenges as everybody else, but we had a very specific challenge because I really believed this had to be Puerto Rican rum. Shareef was sent on a mission to get Puerto Rican rum. I will let him tell the story.
Okay, so this is in the beginning. So we started checking off those boxes that I referred to earlier, right? And so we're checking off the box and we're building the team and we got, so I think the easiest thing is we're going to do somebody a big favor and buy a lot of rum from them, right? Because we're going to be a super successful company and they're just going to love this. And we're going to buy great rum, do some research and figure out who do we want to buy the rum from. And I find a contact to get, to the person who's in charge of sales. And I come to learn that we will never sell you our super premium aged rum. It's too great. It's too rare. It's too valuable. It's just not going to happen. So I called Jay up and I said, I know we have a whole story here, but would you I don't know that we can get the rum we want from Puerto Rico. Can we change the country? He goes, no, it has to be Puerto Rican. So I said, great. Let's just go to Puerto Rico. We show up in Puerto Rico. I call the CEO of the distillery, which I finagled somehow to get his number, right? And I said, hey, we happen to be in Puerto Rico on other business. Not true. All right. We went
Which,
there.
by the way, the CEO knows now, just so
Yeah, he's found out.
Not true. Okay. But I said, so we thought we'd come by the distillery and say hi. He said, basically, you're not coming to the distillery, but I'll meet you at your hotel. So he comes to the hotel and we sit down together. And I said, let me tell you why we wanted to say hi. I'm not here and we are not here to convince you to sell us rum. We hope you will one day. But we're here for two reasons. We want to tell you who we are. So if the worst thing that comes out of this, we're going to be two people that you're actually going to like, and we're going to have a friendship in the future. Because we're not two guys that are trying to capitalize on your great rum and abuse and make money. And we want you to know who we are. So we're a family, and you have it's a family business that owns all the distilleries, basically, right? It's like you said, you're born into the rum business, right? So you understand families, right? And they recruited you because you get that. We want you to know that we're a family, right? All of my businesses in my entire life are family businesses. Jay and I are family, and we have family ethics and family values, and we run our company with family values like you do. And the second thing I want to tell you is, and not asking you to sell us rum. The second thing I want to tell you is that we're going to give millions of dollars to Puerto Ricans who need it. Whether we buy rum from you or rum from somebody else, we want to know you to know that's who we are, and that's what we're doing. Fast forward, they hire an outside consultant to analyze our business plan and basically unwrap every single aspect of our business. And they know the business better than anybody. Until 2 years later, we signed, after they made a recommendation to the board that they do the deal. They signed, 2 years later, we signed the agreement, and then we have a long-term supply agreement with them. But it also resulted in something, and that's because of what we're doing and the symbiotic relationship now that we have with the distillery. The master distiller made us the damn best rum because they want to help their fellow brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico. So that wasn't we didn't think about that. Like, how do we get such great rum? I mean, I could think it was really good rum, but no. And I gave her a call today just to check in with her a little bit. And she said, we both are the same family and we both have the same goals and we both have the same ends. Because I thanked her again for getting us that gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, right? And that was Jay. He says, let's send it in. I'm like, Jay, well, just send it in. It's a blind tasting, So we were, titillated, exuberant, that happened. But so that's so I'm glad that Jay and I are on the same page, because that's what I was going to say. The biggest challenge was because, by the way, if we don't have the rum, we don't have, all we have is the deck, the renderings,
Yeah.
right? It stands up. All three expressions stand up, and so I'm so grateful for that.
I mean, you just described the epitome of that home run in business, right? You're appealing to people's hopes, a community alongside, and look at what happened out of that. You got a rum that you are so proud of, and you're eager to share with the world, and so are they, right? So.
Yes.
Again, congratulations. That's an amazing story to share, and I hope that you guys are able to scream that from the rooftops, especially in the Bronx this weekend. With Fat Joe there, DJing that. With so you guys had, it took 2 years to get that agreement. How long have you been operating now, actually selling? And because it's young, I feel like you're a young company. What are your long-term goals? What's your ambition, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Where do you see the business at? Where do you see the rum at?
We said we hit a home run, but we may have, but it was early in the first inning, so we got a long way to go, regardless of how we're doing in the early innings. Um, it is early days. I think you can check me on this, Shareef, but I don't think we've had a potential key account say no yet. So we're kind of going one city at a time to restaurants and bars that we love. And so obviously we started in Miami, where Shareef and the family owns a restaurant there called The Forge. That's the second oldest restaurant in Miami after Joe Stone Crabs. So Shareef has a lot of great relationships there. And so from Joe Stone Crabs itself to now dozens of other key accounts there, including Soho Beach House, Miami, all of Dave Grutman's restaurants, so super high-end nightlife restaurants. They're all saying yes and carrying it. Norwegian Cruise Lines, also based there, also picked us up for a specific new ship of theirs whose home port is San Juan, Puerto Rico. It's called the Viva. And in fact, you mentioned cigars. When they did the inaugural cruise on that for their VIP customers and influencers, they actually did hand-rolled cigars right next to the Sonrisa tasting. So one city at a time. Shareef's just spent a bunch of time in Vegas, and we've had a remarkable response in Vegas, and then Los Angeles, Nashville. Oh, New York is already on its way as well.
Yeah, so we've had some amazing success in places like in the Bronx and Con Sofrito, and in the Aman Hotel and the Bowery Hotels, or Zero Bond. This is something for everybody. Like, all kinds of people smoke cigars, right? To use your example, right? You could be wealthy, you could be a farmer, but you all can enjoy a great cigar. And that's how our rum is really. So in Las Vegas, we're at the Fontainebleau and at the Tao Beach Club, but we're also in some of these smaller rum type bars that are off the strip, where people are enjoying it for the quality of what it is. So you talked about it too. Like, we believe in great design and great packaging and everything, but we didn't try to sell it with packaging. I think correct me.
Although we should talk about the packaging. If we're gonna names though, Jeans in New York,
Yeah.
Kyle, the mixologist there, is a mad genius. And what he's doing with Sonrisa is just off the charts. And for anybody who happens to be in Nashville, Rose Pony, Roze Pony, Owen, the owner and mixologist there, who was mixologist at the Peninsula Hong Kong, so the man knows his drinks.
Oh
He's
man, I was just in Nashville. I just came back Friday. I would have loved to connect up with
Oh,
him and have him
dude,
make me a
it
cocktail.
would have been you and I and Owen. And on the menu, to answer your question earlier, is a Sonrisa Oro Especial Manhattan, and I'll send you the exact recipe for it. It is out of this world.
Thank you so much. I am looking forward to making that. I'll make that next week for the Instagram reel. You know, I try to get out to New York every 4 to 5 weeks. It would be awesome to meet up with your mixologist out there and see what, you know, someone who makes great craft cocktails can do with Sonrisa. I'd love to have that experience as well.
Let me know when you're in New York because I'm in and out of New York all the time, so we can have a sunrise together.
That'd be amazing. You know, I was just down in Miami for the F1 race, so that would have been amazing to connect up then too. So I'm glad that I've had opportunity to meet you two. Has just been amazing. We're not done yet. Hopefully, can I get you guys for a few more minutes?
Got it.
Absolutely. I'm gonna throw one more out. Avra. The Avra cocktail is unbelievable too.
Avra,
Yes,
it's a hibiscus daiquiri at Avra in Rockefeller Center and also on Madison.
Oh
And
man,
yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
I'm a daiquiri fan. I love daiquiris because even as a simple daiquiri, it's such a great expression, right? Like it's not too complex. But like I mentioned earlier, I love experimentation with daiquiris as well because it's a good canvas. I feel right. It's so basic: lemon, lime and rum and some sugar, and then you can just totally have some fun with it. So
And Bond Street at Hudson Yards is putting together, they're working on a great cocktail, which is instead of a vodka espresso martini, it's a Sonrisa espresso martini. And quite frankly, it has so much more flavor than a vodka martini. The vodka is flat. I mean, there's not much going on there. It's just alcohol, basically.
yeah.
And it's amazing. Also, Zero Bond and Mercer Hotel are putting together a pineapple concoction for their rooftop that sounds outrageous. So we have all these great things in the works and these great cocktail programs. But one of our favorite is Kyle at Jeans, and that's where I would take you, Dan. Okay, because that guy is another level.
I'm gonna take you up on that for sure. Hopefully in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and I'll ring you up.
He's a mad Irishman with a beard like yours. So I posted a picture of me with him. Okay. We went downstairs during the day where he's clarifying everything for his drinks, drip by drip by drip all day long. He created like a lab. So I posted this photograph with him and I said, Kyle is to mixology is what Walter White is to meth. Okay.
Oh my gosh, that's a great picture.
That's the guy. Okay. He's
Yeah.
amazing.
Hopefully, thankfully you came out of that dungeon or garage or whatever that was in. Because I know you guys had one other thing that I wanted to touch point on, which is your new e-commerce platform. I don't know much details on that, but I did go to your website and I noticed that I can buy direct from you. I also know that you are not distributing to Oregon. So I was hoping I could go buy a bottle and try this out. So what is the best way for people to get their hands on a bottle of Sonrisa, especially if they're in a state where they can't buy it currently?
What you see Shareef doing right now is he is looking at the list of states our e-commerce platform supplies to, not to be confused with the 44 states and DC that our Southern Glazers agreement covers. We just haven't gotten to all 44 yet. So one way or another, we're getting you a bottle in Oregon. But Shareef, did I vamp long enough for you to see if Oregon's on the e-com platform?
Yeah, no, it's not on the BevStack list, which is they fulfill our orders nationwide, with the complicated laws that we have from state to state. But also had a great meeting yesterday with the CEO of GoPuff and Bevmo. I'm very happy to say, and I just got an email from them today, that eventually you will be able to purchase us on those incredible logistics and sales platforms.
Well,
So
that's news to me too. You didn't tell me about that email. So Dan, you and I are in the same class of communique right now. You rate. That's awesome.
Breaking news. You heard it here first. That's great. Congratulations on that. That's a big deal. You know, here in Oregon, everything's controlled by the state. So you buy from a state liquor store, but Washington, which is only about 25 minutes from where I live, it's all open market. So Bevmo,
okay,
etc.
so Washington is on the list.
That's amazing.
On the list on the website. So you can buy it in Washington, but you'd have to be living there.
You don't have a friend in Washington who you can address it to. I do, and then you can drive to their house.
Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
Or better yet, I'll get them to drive it to you.
Perfect.
Not just say I was transporting liquor across state, someone else to do it.
You guys are putting a smile on my face if it comes right back to Sonrisa, right?
Love it. Yes, sir.
one other question, and then we can wrap it up, which is for me, how do you envision people enjoying Sonrisa Rum?
So we have a very specific answer to that. The real answer is however the hell they want to. You know, we've put a rum out there that has so many, forgive the phrase, use cases, occasions, as the beverage industry likes to say, and we've really expanded the occasions, we think, through sipping and the classic cocktail mixing. But our very specific answer is we did an exhaustive survey. Our chief creative officer, Jason Busa, who tells amazing stories about being yelled at by Steve Jobs, which just means he's the type of designer who was in the room with Steve Jobs a lot. So that gives you a sense. And he designed our brand design. The bottle you're looking at is a custom bottle. Everything about it is him. So Jason led an exhaustive study with our CMO, Orlando Baeza, who is Puerto Rican, and every single image they could find, not most, every, was rum during the day. And so our visual strategy, but also what we're trying to convey about the brand and of course the juice overall, we call it "We Own the Night." And when you see our visuals, we call that neon foliage. This is all kind of inside stuff, but it's a very constructed brand world. We want to signal to people who might otherwise be reaching for a fine brown spirit or a fine tequila or mezcal, that this sits alongside those. This is bottle service rum. This is high-end mixology rum. And please put the Platino in your daiquiri or your mojito, because it's going to taste better in that too.
Jay, do you want me to share a slide to showing the two different day and night?
Yeah, of course.
Right? Can I do that, Dan? Does
For
that
sure.
work?
Yeah, as long as you're okay with the viewing public can see it as well.
So this is a sampling of the study that we did. A sampling. This is just what we chose to put in the grid to make a point. Without exception, daytime. This next slide, this is Sonrisa and neon foliage. So we're signaling right away. Do we think a whole lot of people, for example, at Con Sofrito next Sunday, are going to drink Sonrisa poolside and by day? Of course they are. But what we're signaling is, as you transition into night where you might not be thinking about rum today, you're going to think about Sonrisa.
Yeah, I love the color palette here as well. You know, not to do a little self-promotion here, but it looks just like our parent company, Digital Transmedia Group, DTMG.co. We have a very, very, very similar color palette. I love it. And I was actually going to say too, because again, I was on your website earlier, and when you said "We Own the Night," I was like, I totally get it. Like I already had it in my brain and in my memory, and I hadn't focused on that when I went to your site, but the moment you said it, yep, totally get it.
Yeah, like we say, you know, sonrisa por favor or smile at sonrisa are kind of the lines we throw around a lot. But if there's a third one, it's 2 a.m. somewhere. Again, that's like this is the time for this rum.
For sure. All right, I'm going to finish this off with maybe we can get a little bit of some embarrassing stories. Since you are family, I know there's got to be some fun stories between you all and the family and working on this. Is there anything you want to share that is, you know, it could be myth, you know, a myth level?
I'm going to say I am the most coveted partner for Family Olympics in every sport. And that's going to drive Shareef crazy. We have an ongoing, Shareef is an incredible athlete. He's a jujitsu master. He's got like his deep sea diving. He can fly a helicopter or a jet, and he's a world champion boat racer. But when my end of the family started getting invited to the Family Olympics that Shareef would throw on, Shareef loves me unequivocally. The only time I've ever seen him get competitive is when one of the little cousins was like, "We want Jay for volleyball."
That is amazing.
So we do these family vacations, Dan. So we have a family Olympics that I created that we could all compete together to compete. And then the level of competition. So like we were 64 people in St. Bart's, okay, for a family vacation. And everybody competes. And we start at 9 in the morning, we finish at 7 at night. It gets ugly at some point. You know, I mean, it gets really hardcore, especially water polo. people start drowning and, like,
Which is the
5-year-old.
sport I
and
actually
6-year-old.
played, and Shareef did potentially try to drown me. My family was legitimately concerned about how long Shareef had me underwater.
Oh, I would pay to just watch that. That sounds absolutely fantastic.
It was great.
That is the level of competition we intend to bring to the marketplace, however, on the same side, on the same team, of course.
Oh my goodness. I love the way we just brought that full circle. I want to thank both of you for what an amazing time getting to know you two and about Sonrisa. I think what you're trying to achieve here is really commendable. What a great story. Thank you so much.
Dan, thank you. Thank Emmanuel. We just love that you're interested in it. The only bummer is that we had this conversation outside the context of you getting to taste Sonrisa yet. So please take us up on the multiple invitations. We want to buy you a drink.
I appreciate that. I will definitely take you up on that. And I believe your team is sending me some samplers. So I'll definitely follow up with a cocktail. Get me over those 2 recipes. And I would really, really love to be able to make those and share that with the rest of the audience here.
There's
And
there's one other recipe you need, Dan, though. Okay,
okay.
because we live in such a body conscious society, we do have the Fat Joe Skinny Mo. Okay, it's a sticky mojito, and
Which my daughter named, who is legal drinking age. My daughter, Daisy Goodman, gets full credit for the Fat Joe Skinny Mo.
Fat Joe Skinny Mo. Okay, but our mixologist consultants that are the best, we think, in the country out of Kentucky, they created the recipe. So I would throw that one in too, because it's great. And people don't understand that rum is 0 carbs. They think it's filled with sugar, which is not, because we don't add any.
And it's distilled
And this is lighter in the calories. So it's a great mojito.
That's actually another unique thing about your rum then, because most rum is chock full of sugar, right? They add that.
Do not add sugar back in. It's all distilled out. So it's 0 carbs, keto friendly, no sugar.
Yep. 0 carbs, man. Right?
Fantastic.